This video is a very simple, very basic, getting started how to link your MultiTracks Playback with ProPresenter 7. This will be covering just the basics. We're not really going to go into anything fancy. We're just going to show how the connections are made, how it runs, and how to do some basic cue editing. We're going to assume that you already have MultiTracks, that you already know how to load your songs in and play them and run them. We're going to assume that you're using ProPresenter. In this case, I'm using ProPresenter 7. And we're going to assume that MultiTracks and ProPresenter are on the same network. Okay, so to get started, we're going to click on Settings, and we're going to turn on Enable MIDI Out. We're then going to go to the MIDI tab, select a port for the lyrics, this very top one, and choose Network Sessions. And that is pretty much everything you have to do on the iPad. Let's go to ProPresenter, and we'll do the next part there. So we're going to go ahead and click on Preferences, Devices. Any name you want is fine, MIDI is okay. Auto reconnect, hardware is your core, behavior is a device, and be sure and check playback and destinations for playback lyrics. So after you have all this set up, we'll go back and we're going to click Connect. Now, ProPresenter is ready to accept commands. Let's go and connect the computer to the iPad. So we'll go to Audio, MIDI Setup. Then we go to Window, Show MIDI Studio. Click on these two dots, Configure Device, and Open MIDI Network Setup. Now all the devices that are running MultiTracks will show up here. In this case, I'm going to connect to this one and press Connect. Now ProPresenter is connected to MultiTracks. The last step of what we need to do is insert the cues into MultiTracks. With the new MultiTracks, it is really easy to do this. Before we had to use software like Ableton to be able to add these cues, but now everything can be done right from the software. So let's just get into it. Hold down the Edit button, and we're going to select MIDI cues. And now we're in the cue editor. The easiest way to be able to configure your cues is to play them and insert them as you need. I like to use the downloads from MultiTracks.com because not only does it include the lyrics that match what's on your MultiTracks, but also all the parts, such as instrumentals, bridges, build-ups, all those little components are also built into ProPresenter. So when you have a pause for an instrumental, that pause is included in ProPresenter. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one song that I've already downloaded and installed. If you're not familiar with importing songs from ProPresenter, we just go to File, Import, File, and point it to the file that you downloaded from the MultiTracks website. We're going to go ahead and play the track directly from Playback, and while it's playing, we can add those cues. Adding the cue is just as simple as hitting that plus button on the white bar. When that bar gets to the part that we want, we can go ahead and add that cue. For example, we know right here when this intro starts, we're going to want our first cue. We're going to hit the plus button. Everything here is pre-filled in. The only thing you really need to worry about is this velocity. And the velocity will advance itself, but it matches to the slide number. So on ProPresenter, intro is slide 1. My first mark is going to be velocity 1. So now we're going to go ahead and play this track. And as it's playing, we'll be adding the cues to match our ProPresenter so that the lyrics are timed correctly.
1, 2, intro, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Verse 1. Pre-chorus. Chorus. Interlude. Verse 2. Drums in.
So that's the first verse and the first chorus to match up here. If I was to play this back from the beginning, watching ProPresenter, we should see them sync up.
1, 2. Intro 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Verse 1.
And something else I like to do is during playback when we're doing rehearsals, I'll come here and I'll solo the reference track so that you can actually hear what you're expected to hear. So that's a good way to be able to audition your cues and make sure they're correct to what you're actually going to be performing. Now that we have the cues put in, we know they're synced, we know that they're running on ProPresenter. The last thing is actually editing these cues. I like to set these cues a little bit ahead of when they're actually sung to give the audience some preparation time. So if we wanted to change the placement of these cues, let's go into our editor and hold down Edit, MIDI Cues, and we can select any cue here just by tapping on the orange cue. So if we wanted to change the placement of this cue, for example, we would click on these three dots, and if we wanted to edit the cue, change the note, change the slide, we can do from here. If we wanted to nudge, which is what I use the most often, click on nudge, and then with these arrows we can change the placement of where that cue goes, and the checkbox locks it back in. So if we wanted this verse 2 to come in a little later, we hit nudge, bring that to where we want it, and then hit the checkbox, and now that cue has been changed there. Hit done. It's important that you save your changes to the cloud so that you're not having to do this for every single song. If you repeat the song, all these cues that you made will be available the next time you need to play them. That's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.